Welcome to VISTA Table Talks. I'm Kim Chin, the Assistant National Director of the Up2Us VISTA program. We know that ensuring youth have access to sports is critical, but how do we ensure that access to a variety of sports match the youth's interests? On this episode, we're joined by three VISTA members who serve at organizations offering non-traditional sports to youth in three distinct communities: Edwards, Colorado, Chicago, Illinois, and Gainesville, Florida. They break down the access gaps in snow sports, rowing, and tennis for youth in traditionally marginalized communities. They discuss the benefits of non-traditional sports, their own personal experiences growing up in the programs, and how diversity in these sports is critical. Leading this conversation is Kevin Kimiadi, our current Northeast Coach Program Director, who has a long history of playing and working in youth hockey. Kevin, feel free to take it away.
Thanks, Kim. Super excited to be here today and to be joined alongside three of our amazing AmeriCorps VISTAs in Cara, Jennifer, and Jocelyn, and to also have the opportunity to facilitate a conversation around non-traditional sports with each of you. So to kick us off, I would just love to start off with introductions. So as Kim mentioned, my name is Kevin Kimiadi. I am the Northeast Program Director of our Up2Us Coach program. I've been with Up2Us Sports for just about a year now, and I'm beyond blessed to have the opportunity to work with some of our amazing Up2Us coaches and sites who are on the ground and are truly making a positive impact within their communities. Prior to Up2Us Sports, I also played hockey growing up and worked with the youth hockey program at Chelsea Piers, which is located in New York City. And that's also where I grew up playing. So it was super awesome for me to have the opportunity to give back to an organization that gave to me growing up. I would like to pass it over now to our three VISTAs to introduce themselves. We can start off with Cara and then jump over to Jennifer and Jocelyn. If you could just introduce yourself with your name, where you are serving at, and your role within your organization.
Hi, everyone. My name is Cara. I am currently the Alumni Relations Liaison with SOS Outreach in Edwards, Colorado. SOS Outreach is a youth development organization that focuses on youth mentorship in the outdoors. We're primarily centered around snow sports, and we're now in season.
Thanks for starting us off, Cara. My name is Jennifer Staples, and I am the Development Coordinator for ACES in Motion in Gainesville, Florida. ACES in Motion, also known as AIM, is a student-based after-school youth development program for students 6th through 12th grade. And we serve the students in East Gainesville who come to us from a variety of schools throughout the district, and we approach three pillars in our program: education, health, and character.
Hi, my name is Jocelyn. I am the social media and marketing intern for Chicago Training Center, and we are a rowing team, fully free rowing team for the Chicago youth across different schools in the city.
Great, thanks everyone. Super excited to speak with y'all today. It seems like all of you are involved with a non-traditional sport, whether that's currently as a VISTA or maybe even growing up for some of you. So to kick off the conversation, I would like to learn from all of you, how did you start getting involved with your respective sport? And why are you personally connected with the sport your organization offers? And we can start off with Cara again for this question.
So actually, I was a participant of SOS Outreach for about 8 years. I immigrated to the US when I was 10 years old, and that's when we moved to the Vail Valley. And that winter, I got connected with SOS Outreach through the school district, and I did their Learn to Ski program for about a year. And then I officially entered their mentoring program. And then the mentoring program is very much similar to the university. You do year 1 to year 4, and then you become a master's student, and then you become a junior mentor, and then you eventually give back to the organization by being a mentor on the slopes and off the sports with the kids when you're in high school. And I am so grateful to be back at the organization working with them through Up2Us Sports and AmeriCorps, and to really be giving back to this community.
So I have a little bit of a different story. This organization, Aces in Motion, is actually led by my brother, Addison Staples, which is how I became involved. I've known about the organization for ever since its inception. So I am just recently moved back home to Gainesville, Florida with my now husband. And this position with VISTA came available, and we both had a need, and my skill set aligned with theirs. I don't personally have a connection with tennis. I come from a performing arts background, but where I support most is capacity building in their fundraising and communications, which is also really important. So like I said, I grew up in the performing arts, which had very similar skills and very similar commitment to understanding the commitment, focus, and discipline that both of them require. So I've been exposed to the sport for a while now, and feel very comfortable being an advocate for it.
Yeah, for me, I actually was a part of Chicago Training Center since I was 9 years old. My brother was actually the first member on the team, and I always went with him to like his regattas, practices. So honestly, I was there even though I was not a rower in the beginning. But then I was allowed to be a part of the team, although I was like the youngest and the first fourth grader allowed on the team, because back then it was only high school through, well, it was only high school, and now it's middle school through high schoolers that are able to participate. So yeah, I started off as a coxswain. I was very shy back then. I still am a little today, but not that much. But yeah, I decided to come back and give back to this team who really made me like the person that I am now. I spent all of fourth grade through 12th grade like after school with them, and they really became like my second family. At least I'm still very, very close with the founder, Montana Butch. He's more like family now, and yeah.
Yeah, I think it's super awesome that you all had some sort of connection before serving as a Vista at your organization, and it's super cool to be able to give back in a specific capacity. I know for me, personally playing hockey growing up, you know, I think hockey in itself is a very inaccessible sport. When you think about, you know, different types of costs like equipment, ice time, league fees, transportation costs, even proximity to a hockey rink. You know, there aren't hockey rinks everywhere, especially in urban communities. So in my opinion, you know, a sport like hockey, there are a lot of barriers of entry for young kids, especially in marginalized communities. So I would love to learn from you all, like, what are some of the barriers of entry in your sport, and how are your organizations working to break those walls and increase opportunities for you to participate in that sport?
So for snow sports, especially, one of the biggest hurdles that we have is really having a seasonal pass to even access these mountains and to have the right equipment to actually be on the mountain and going down after being on the chairlift. So these hurdles, these financial burdens, and the hurdles that some of our community members face in our 6 full-time locations has been recognized, and we're so grateful to the partners that we have. One of our biggest partners is Vail Resorts, which is how we get on the mountain. We also get really great gear from them, and we also have other partnerships in our local communities with the organizations that are there. We also partner with the school systems in all of our 6 locations to really identify the youth that are in need, and also we have great partners in the outdoor industry who supply us and who keep us warm while we're actually on the slopes.
Yeah, I think for rowing, I think one of the the biggest barriers or challenges to make it accessible, at least for people of color and people who come from a low income family, like me, is the money. Just because rowing is a very expensive sport. I mean, I know that other rowing teams, I think their like fees are like 3,500 per month. For Chicago Training Center, it's completely free. Um, we don't charge them for anything, not the programming, not for like the after school snacks, the mentoring, or their athletic gear. We try to keep it as like as engaging, but also try to work with what we have. And because of this is why we also have another part of like our programming, which is repair maintenance of the boats. So our athletes are actually the ones that repair our boats and do like the maintenance for them every Saturday for 3 hours. We started making this a requirement before it was like if it was only for those who were interested in being a part of this group, but now we made it a requirement so that everyone on our team can actually learn how to properly repair a boat. This also helps us cut down those costs for what it would actually take us to have someone else do it for us. And yeah, it also teaches them the value of of having a program that one is never free. I think we are like the one of the very few teams across the nation that is completely free, if not like the only one. But this also teaches them to take care of their equipment because it does cost a lot of money to replace an oar, to replace a boat after like a crash, but also shows their commitment to the sport and their passion for it.
Yeah, I think you guys both hit on like one of the biggest is the starting costs for these sports, especially in the entry. You know, I'll take a step back and say that it's easy to pitch mainstream sports. You know, we grow up and, you know, Sunday night football and Thanksgiving football, or, you know, these holidays that kind of surround sports events. And for tennis, there is a stigma around it being like an elitist sport. And so the responsibility falls on us, and our society doesn't hype up tennis. You know, it's slowly getting there. We have, you know, the Williams sisters and, you know, making it into their story into a film. But it really is falling onto us to be the cheerleaders for this sport. And aside from that stigma, like I said, the starting costs are extremely high. So we provide everything for the students, like you guys said. We provide rackets and balls and equipment that you need, training equipment. We have shoes and outfits, things that aren't accessible, especially where we are located, which is in East Gainesville. And the biggest thing that we've also noticed is, you know, our students are 90% of them are 150% below poverty line, which is, you know, they're on free and reduced lunch. So these costs are completely inaccessible to them. So we go above and beyond. We pick them up from school, we bring them to our facility, and we provide the resources for them. And then we have, you know, snack, tutoring, and then we drop them off, because a lot of these kids come from households where that isn't an option. So yeah, a long-winded answer, but that's some of the barriers, just the surface, it's the surface of the iceberg.
As we were talking about all these financial just hurdles and barriers that they are in accessing the sports that we're all involved in, I think there's like a second phase to this also, which is like just the um the societal kind of barrier, if you will, kind of a social one. So SOS is located in 6 full-time locations. So we're in Eagle County, Summit County, Denver, Colorado, Park City, Utah, North Lake Tahoe, and South Lake Tahoe. And most of our locations are in mountain communities, and mountain communities are kind of really rallied around around the mountains, and everybody in the community loves going in the mountains. And our students hear this in the lunchroom with their friends, even out in the community. That's what everybody's talking about. But really not having the opportunity to even like get that first hurdle and just be able to even have a chance to like kind of engage other community members in that talk really goes far. I think one story that I can really pull is an SOS alumni who's now part of our board. Some of the adults that he was surrounded with told him when he was in Eagle County here, they told him the mountains aren't for us. We can't ever get on the mountains because they're not for us. And just having that being told to you just can discourage someone, especially when they're young, in the communities that we live in.
Yeah, I mean, that happens to our students, very often. 100% of our students identify as Black or African American. And so the constant language sometimes that's used, sometimes with teachers or people in their life that don't build them up as they should. And tennis and our coaches do that both on and off the court. Our slogan or our tagline is coaching students for life beyond the court. So they learn those lessons, those intangible lessons, to kind of rise above and use that energy to do more. So yeah, absolutely making it accessible and kind of rising above those doubting entities.
Yeah, I wanted to add onto what Jennifer said about kind of how it falls on like society, how like I guess unpopular these sports may be in certain communities. At least in my experience coming from a Hispanic Mexican background, I always I mean, my friends, most of them, the ones I went with in middle school and high school, most of them were also Hispanic. So I I always tried to like recruit some of my friends. I was only successful with like two, but everybody else was like, "What's rowing?" Like, well, that sounds boring. Like that, it's not nothing like basketball or soccer, which are very like common sports. And also I guess familiar sports within like communities, people of color. But with rowing, at least with like also family members, they they just don't even take the time to, you know, like look it up, see what it's about, see what opportunities there are with it. They don't even like give it a try. And I think, yeah, that's like mostly on us, you know. Also as like parents, not some parents are not able to support their children in being able to take them to like practice and making sure that they are actually committed and dedicating that time that rowing needs. So yeah, it's just there's a lot of obstacles when it comes to these sports, because sometimes that opportunity is out there, such as like CTC. I mean, it's a free program, it's out there, We're in a community, we're located in a community where it's mostly Hispanic and African American families. So there really shouldn't be an excuse, but then there still are some like limits, such as transportation, but then also those, I guess, the stereotypes that exist um, within like ethnicities, and trying to break those barriers. Uh, but yeah, I think we have a lot of work to do as a society.
Yeah, I think all of you brought up great points, in that, I think several non-traditional sports aren't typically as diverse or as inclusive as some of our main sports that we see on TV. So I think representation in sports is super crucial, whether that's at the professional level or at a more local level with some of our smaller communities. I'm Asian American. I played hockey growing up, but I didn't see a lot of Asian Americans or, people that looked like me, when I played. I would have felt a lot more comfortable if I had someone that looked like me, whether it was a player or a coach, when I was playing growing up. So how do youth programs like yours ensure an inclusive environment where participants feel safe and welcome in sports, where they typically don't see people who look like them or have similar access?
So SOS Outreach, like I was saying earlier, we have a really great partnership with the school systems and the communities that we're present in. So for that very first year, we have the Learn to Ride program, where kids are like being signed up through their schools, and they actually have a teacher that's present throughout the whole 5 days that they're present in our programs. And that teacher really becomes the connector for these kids, because these teachers, they see these teachers every day in school and they know them, they can go up and talk to them. And then on the mountain, on the day of, the teachers are also there. They're helping, they're there just for support. And just having those teachers there. And then really from that, our pipeline really starts our in our university program, going from year 1 to year 4. So we're really in those 4 years, we really are social and emotional learning is centered around courage, discipline, integrity, wisdom, compassion, humility. So those 6 are our core values that we go ahead and really zero in on in our ride days and in the workshops that we're having. And through that pipeline, I would say, like, I can give my example. I was 10 years old, and by the time I went through the whole program, and to become a junior mentor, I was about 16 years old, and just seeing that gradual process and really being able to guide the next generation by being the junior mentor in their group, because I've seen the programming, I've done it myself, and I'm there as a junior mentor in all of the ride days and all of the workshops. And just being that familiar face to the youth that we serve, I think really creates that inclusive environment. And just having and we also have a really, really great volunteers who come back and mentor youth with us every single year, and they're paired with their groups, and usually they go ahead and go from year 1 to year 4 with the same group. So they're having that familiar touch point, that familiar adult in the community that they can count on, they can talk to anytime. I think really builds that connection.
Yeah, you hit on something that is really important, is having those shared stories. For ACEs in Motion, we are a predominantly Black organization. From the students it serves to the staff and volunteers and coaches. And they lead by example, which is a key element that our coaches embody. And it's also important that we share the success of athletes of color. And not only, we have the Williams sisters, like I mentioned earlier, but also local Black individuals who are leaders in their field or in our community. So we make a conscious effort to bring in community members to speak to students. But on a separate note, we have one of our coaches who was a student in the program and has that experience and knows what it's like and went through from middle school all the way to high school, went to FAMU, which is here in Florida, and then returned back to us. And now she is mentoring and coaching the middle school students. So that's really important for them to see that what we're doing has a huge impact on your trajectory and your path. The other element was, connecting with the community. And right where we are, we're in East Gainesville, so we're in the Black community. And one thing that we have is a partnership. So Black excellence, or Black business excellence, is what we have started, and that is bringing in Black business owners and showing them that, like, there's not just while they are playing tennis and they're getting to know the sport, there's also other avenues for individuals that look like themselves and who have different passions. So we believe, in order to diversify and to create that open environment, these students are going to relate more to, like you guys said, like what they see. So when they see Black excellence, they are going to become that, and that's huge for us.
Yeah, for CTC as well. I agree with Jennifer that I guess like the best way to show success, I guess, in and also the like the positive influence that a organization can have on students is by bringing back alumni. So right now, all of our coaches are actually alumni. And then apart from that, we have other coaches who are just volunteers, who find CTC by just like a search, I guess, a Google search. But then as well, our executive director, who just became part of CTC in June, I believe. She's African American, so she also brings her own experience as a person of color. Although she never rode, but she does have some experience in sports training. But yeah, just by coming back, at least for me, my Joe, who is one of the main coaches, he's the one that reached out to me to come back and become a VISTA member with CTC. So they really try to bring alumni back and keep them in the loop of what is going on with CTC. And I know that has been a huge success in recruiting other members in the community, because they hear the things that we were able to do after rowing. We have some students who were able to get full ride scholarships with Posse or Questbridge. I myself had the opportunity to go to boarding school with also a full ride scholarship. So I had like many opportunities that I can share with the parents, just to let them know and let them see that rowing is not rowing can bring many opportunities that people who come from a low income family or communities who are under resourced wouldn't imagine their like daughters or sons accomplishing these goals or achieving something, I guess, like going off to college. I mean, before people in my community would tell me that I wouldn't go beyond high school, but with the help of and the guidance of my rowing coaches, as well as like my high school teachers, I was able to achieve that. So yeah, I think that there's a lot that that can that a sport can teach students, not just to go off, to college. We also have students who are now fixing and repairing boats as a, like as a professional career, which is what one of the other parts of our program, the repair and maintenance, which I talked about before. But there's many opportunities that can be opened.
I love a couple of points that you all mentioned in regards to alumni and former participants giving back. I think that is super crucial to see someone who's been a part of the program can relate and understand and come from similar communities to the ones that are currently in the program. I think that's super important. And I know, Jocelyn, you also mentioned that about the different avenues and opportunities that participating in non-traditional sports opens up, whether that's scholarships for college, or just the opportunities to learn different skills, whether that's, life skills that can take with them personally, but also professional skills. So in your opinions, why do you think providing youth with access to non-traditional sports or a variety of different sports at a young age is so important?
So I think really providing youth with access to non-traditional sports really is, I think, it gives you, it creates a sense of belonging in the communities that they live in. And then it can also be one of the connectors. So I can bring up my example. So SOS Outreach was really a connector for me in my community, because through them, I got connected with the Rotary, with other scholarships in the area. Jocelyn talked about this earlier about just having more access to other avenues to really go further with the opportunities that are present in the communities. I think non-traditional sports gives you, I think, a bigger chance right now, just in the communities that we live in, to really explore, I would say, the different opportunities. I want to be more specific, but I'm just thinking just in terms like SOS being present in mountain communities, it really opens up. It may not be a non-traditional sports in the whole of US, but in the communities that we live in, it's the sport that we all do. This is what we do on a Saturday afternoon or a Sunday afternoon. And you talk about it in the school lunchroom, you talk about it in classes, you talk about it with your friends. I mean, and it's really just being even able to say, oh, I also ski. Do you want to go ski on Saturday? Like having that access to say, yes, I can go ski. I don't have that financial burden of having to pay $200 to even get on the mountain. I have a pass I can get on because of an organization that has great partnerships in the community that gives me the access to even go. And really that gives me the access to really be a part of this community through the community members that are present in the organization, and also through the different workshops that they do by giving back to the community. I would say some things would be like making Thanksgiving baskets, Christmas baskets, really helping out in the community as volunteers and really giving back to the community members who do give to the organization.
Yeah, I think, providing access to students who are sometimes rarely, if ever, exposed to a non-traditional sport is huge in the community we serve. So tennis is not a sport that is taught in traditional physical education classes, especially from where our students are attending schools, which are labeled here as low-income communities. So they already are scrapping for resources as is. And so we, going back to like, we bear the burden of destigmatizing, but also teaching the sport. And our mission has evolved to go beyond that. So we take those lessons and we have those intangible lessons of tennis, and we build on the students' social emotional well-being and academic success and health. So you one of the big things is we provide that for free for our students, and having that access, the financial barrier is gone, and it's huge. So we have also been able to be an organization that is really well known in the community that we serve. So it's highly sought out after, like for certain parents who know that this is a safe place for your students to come after school, where they would normally not have anything to do or be highly susceptible to, getting in trouble or gang activity. So we provide that safe space where parents know their students are getting the attention, the safe space that they need to become better people, through tennis. And tennis is just the sport that we focus on, but it goes so much further than that. And that safe space is definitely where our students need mentoring. Like I said, just getting them into a place where they're valued, they're heard, and they're mentored, is perfect for what we need right now for our students.
Yeah, I wanted to also, I guess, highlight. I think this is something that ACEs in Motion and SOS have as part of their programming as well. Tutoring. I know that's like important because not at least also, I mean, we saw it in the pandemic. Not every student has that safe space, as Jennifer mentioned. They don't really have that safe space sometimes at home to be able to do their homework, to study, to get their mind off of school, even if it's just by being active after school. Currently for CTC, that's one of the things that we're trying to implement this year. It's looking more like next year, but yeah, we're trying to work on creating a space so that students can come in the day that they have off. So like middle schoolers would come on the day that high schoolers have practice to receive tutoring or mentoring or any help with any applications that they might have. This would be especially for high schoolers who are applying to college. So yeah, I wanted to highlight the importance of that. And I applaud you guys, your programs, for being able to provide that and taking that into mind, that it's a need in these communities.
Yeah, and just to follow up there, I think it's amazing what you all are doing to provide an inclusive environment for everyone to feel comfortable and participate in, whether that be an in-school program or an after-school program. And like Cara mentioned, tapping into some of those community resources and having people who are passionate about this and invested in providing opportunities for kids to play any sort of sport, regardless of their financial background, what they look like, where they come from. And that's what I would love to see in the future, is to have every kid be able to try a new sport, regardless of what their circumstances are. So to wrap up this conversation, what is one thing that you would like to work on or would like to see change, especially when thinking about non-traditional sports, whether that's specifically within your organization or at a more national scale?
I think I would really, as working in snow sports, I think there is a stigma that I would say it's white privileged people who are only able to access snow sports. And I really, on a national scale, we are doing it as an organization, but I would love to see that going forward change, because we are doing it, but I think the snow sports industry needs a lot more of, I would say, representation from people of color, not only in the shops, but also out in the slopes.
Yeah, I mean, you hit on representation. And I believe and see that we are doing what, the best we can in providing that representation in our coaches, in our staff, leadership. and the guest speakers that we have come in for our students. And it's also just changing the narrative and telling students that, like, okay, yes, acknowledge this is a stigma, and this is a stereotype that this sport is known for, but you can be the change, and like you can, and like, I don't want it to say it's like it's on them, but like we provide them with the tools that say you can be so much more than this stigma, or you know, having them be the change. We just had an event last weekend, and the students were, we have what are called CITs, so coaches in training. They're high schoolers who are becoming coaches, and all of them play tennis extremely well. And a lot of the event guests were like, these students are very good. And I was like, I know, like they are the change, and they are going out into the world, whether they do tennis or not, and they still have that foundation of the respect, the commitment, the that foundation of intangible skills that the sport has taught them. And that's huge. So, and they become advocates for the sport. So whether or not they play it, they'll encourage their, you know, future kids to play it, or, you know, they're the change that we're hoping to see.
Yeah, I mean, you guys said it already, but representation, at least I remember when I joined, I felt really uncomfortable going to regattas, just because I was like one out of maybe 20 people of color, and all those 20 people were on my team. So, but then also like now being part of like the coaches and the staff of CTC, I also realized that also being like, you know, a nonprofit organization, we don't have the best equipment, which affects also our athletes and how competitive they can be. So I just hope that one day that will change, and that the equipment that we have will like not be one of those, I guess, one of those like obstacles or barriers. So I hope that in the future we could break that and see more people of color in the sport of rowing, so that I can stop singing the row, row, row your boat song. But yeah.
Well, I think, Jocelyn, you also hit on another aspect, is our organizations do require a lot of equipment and do require a lot of costs, which also come down to funds and fundraising, and how we all work extremely hard to make sure that our students have the best equipment. And that's expensive. And that's something also sometimes people don't realize, is like the costs that go behind the programs that we work for, is where sometimes like we struggle. So, you know, we know this is going live, and we just encourage everybody to become involved. If that's your time, talent, or money, that's one hope that we all share, I'm sure.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And, you know, I think a common theme here is, you know, it takes all of us really to, you know, promote an inclusive environment and open up doors for kids to be able to play sports. You know, if that's, you know, whatever sport that they're interested in. I think it's super crucial. And we wouldn't want to hold them back because of that. So I'm super excited just from hearing from you all about what our future holds. And you know, I would love to hear more in the future about the impact that you all will have within your respective programs, especially when we talk about non-traditional sports. So I would just like to wrap up the conversation, and I would specifically like to thank Cara, Jennifer, and Jocelyn for really dedicating their time today to be a part of this amazing conversation. I really enjoyed hearing about all of your experiences and learning so much from each of you. And I also want to give a special thanks to everyone for tuning in on this episode of VISTA Table Talks. I hope you all enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, and stay tuned for our next episode.